hear me? Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. I'm here to talk to you about, imagine RAJAR, the boring data people, not having any data within their presentation. So there'll be a limited amount of percentages and data charts in here. It's more about the evolution of how RAJAR measured the audio listeners. From the beginning back in the glory days when people used to still record the top 40 on radio to what we're doing now. Matt touched on it, it is innovation. RAJAR has been very unsexy for a very long time, but has had a recent glow up. a well-needed makeover. I wish I had considered the size of the screen for this presentation, but I did not, so please bear with me. So as you can tell, I'm a local. I'm one of two very noisy fifers in the RAJAR office. When people call RAJAR, they think we're based in Scotland. We're not. We do live in London. You just can hear us from the Kingdom of Fife. What RAJAR is, I'm pretty sure you know, you're pretty sure you use it day to day, but the uses are different for different people. RAJAR, Radio Joint Audience Research, was established in 1992, before some of you were even born by the looks of it. It's the official audience measurement. There isn't any other. We measure live radio across the UK in all platforms. We're jointly owned by the lovely Radio Centre and the BBC. The bottom 2 points, probably the most important. The data is used for programming and for advertising sales. So with much of ado, I'll tell you how it kicked off. So back in the olden days, you know, when you used to record the top 40, between 1992 and 2006, it was a real quiet time. I'm pretty sure they didn't think so at the time. But in comparison to now, I think it is. The RAJAR is, the data is based on a diary system. So back then, someone tapped on your door, asked you if you wanted to take this little paper diary and fill out the radio listening that you listen to in a week. Now, there's still an element of that currently, but it's evolved quite a bit since then. I think during that period of time, the diary was redesigned, making it easier to fill out. The rolling sample was created, which means small local stations were able to be measured in the same way as the big nationals. They were then able to report on a quarterly basis, where I think back in the good old days, correct me if I'm wrong, it was just the national stations that reported quarterly and the locals were maybe every 6 months. And back then as well, we used to ask everyone in the household what they listened to. And then during that period between 92 and 2006, it was just downgraded to one person per household. So skipping past that, back to when it really picked up, obviously digital radio came around in like 2004. So by 2007, RAJAR had to start measuring platform listening. Had to start asking the respondents which platform they listened to this data. Was it AM, FM? Was it via digital television? Was it DAB? Was it online? Because that was just the birth of online listening back then. It was tiny, so tiny compared to what it is now, where it's a real area of growth. We then created an online diary, so not just filling out this wee paper booklet about what you were listening to, but you were able to then fill as a respondent, you were then able to fill the diary in online. That was back in 2011. That feels like forever ago. So that came along, so that was a new thing at the time, exciting stuff. And in 2012, we always asked the respondent what else they did in terms of listening. Did they use podcasts, listen again, on-demand streaming services? I mean, it's not in the currency data, but what we created was an audio survey called MIDAS. This was to see radio's stronghold in the bigger audio environment picture. We wanted to know what radio was doing against the Spotifys, against the podcasting, against the raising in these other audio formats. So we do a separate survey called MIDAS. It used to be, pre-pandemic, it used to be a quarterly publication. We're hoping to get back to that this year, but that gives us an indication of where the radio's chunk of listening in the big picture. I'll finish off on that. I'm conscious that I've only got 10 minutes and I'm waffling already. Also in this period, between 2007 and 22, you were able to fill out the RAJAR diary on a mobile app. The excitement was unreal around that. People, because not everyone wants to take a paper diary. Young people, if you want to get them in the sample, they want to just do things quickly. So there was a mobile app in 2016. Just to kind of put you in the picture, I said no data, lied, I'm sorry. This is just to give you a rough idea how strongly commercial radio in Scotland has remained during that period. From 2007 to 2020, I mean, it meandered a little bit there, but real growth in commercial radio in Scotland during that period. As Matt touched on, it's strong, and it always has been against its BBC competitors. Also, there's more data, sorry. In 2020, this was the share of platform listening. So you can see here that dark blue bit, AM, FM, that's massive. That's the majority, 42%. Where online in 2020 was only 15%. So you'll see a before and after in a sec. But as everyone's touched on, the online growth is massive. The smart speaker listening is bigger than ever now. Which takes us to a brave new world. Everyone knows what happened in 2020. I'll not bore you with pandemic-related stuff. What happened was we couldn't recruit face-to-face anymore. RAJAR couldn't go to people's doors and ask you to fill out a diary. So during that time, which was deathly silent, I think everyone just thought RAJAR was sitting around with their thumb up the arse, but we actually weren't. There was a lot of work going on in the background. We were looking at trying to interview people by video, calling them up, trying data modelling, and nothing was working. When you are a face-to-face recruiter, when it's a diary methodology, it's a single source methodology, how you measure the data. If you move to another single source methodology, there's going to be a step change in the listening. So when we came back after the pandemic, it has to have been a method that was robust enough to still measure like the diary, to still give us all the insight that the diary data does. So there was lots of toing and froing and disagreements and people wanting this and people wanting that. You have to remember that there's still a budget for measurement. There's still a budget for research. So it had to be something that worked for the BBC, that worked for commercial radio. So we tested this app called MediaCell back years ago, which is audio matching, which is electronic measurement, where electronic measurement of radio is not a new thing. They do it in Switzerland with a watch. They do it in Scandinavia with a little meter, kind of like this wee thing that I'm wearing that you attach to your person. It hears the radio, it audio matches the radio, and it transfers that into data. Now, no one uses an app version, not in the current set anyway. RAJAR is the first. So it's now part of the RAJAR currency. It's combined with the diary data. So we still recruit people face-to-face. That's still 60% of the sample. And then the other 40% is made up of people who are on a passive panel, as we refer to it. It's called an Encompass panel. It's powered by technology called MediaCell, which is an app they have on their device that picks up the listening, audio matches it, converts it into diary data. So as I said to you before, no one else in Europe had been using it as part of the currency until RAJAR launched it on its return in Q3 2021, after the pandemic. So that was big news. We kind of rumbled back into fashion, got a bit of a glow up. And as Matt touched on, we only started measuring smart speaker listening separately last year. So you'll see the growth in that platform. We split that out to make it easier for people to, advertise on and things like that. So, and to be able to get insight into the growth of that platform on its own. So that's where it kind of falls in. I've only got 30 seconds, but bite your glad. So that's kind of how it's happened over the whistle stop of 30 years. I went real quick. 30 years of RAJAR years is actually like 100 years in real term. So commercial radio in Scotland now, as you say, it's just the same back during the pandemic, but because the data was frozen. But it's showing positive growth again. Also shows you that a change in measurement, the data has remained the same. It's been robust. It's not like we've brought in a new methodology and somehow it's tailed off. It's not, it's stronger than ever with the new innovation that we've applied. And that pie chart again, you could see where website and apps and online, it makes up more than half of the listening in Scotland. So that AM/FM little piece of the pie has shrunk right down. DAB has stayed the same pre and post pandemic, but that huge area of growth is in the online bucket where we think it will continue to see that growth. Sorry, I've ran over. This is just a Midas chart showing you that radio's piece of the pie in the audio world is still 71% of the listening. So radio's in a great position. Thank you. Sorry for going over.